Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Whatever time it is, welcome to another episode of Reading to Feed the Mind, a podcast focused on discussing the various aspects of books. My name is Stacey Woods, and I am your host. Hi, everybody. I have another author to interview today. This author is really interesting because in his book, he's written about his life living in the street. So it gives us a peek into the street life, but with perspectives that we really know exist. So our author today, Timmy Ray, was born in Dayton, Ohio. He was raised by both of his parents along with his brother and sister. He's a middle child, so you know he's probably a little special. He was raised with morals and spiritual principles, even though he strayed in his later years. He grew up playing bass, guitar, in his mother and father's gospel quartet and other groups and traveled extensively. He moved to Kings Mountain, North Carolina, after high school and traveled kind of extensively, lived in a few different places until he returned back to Dayton, Ohio in 1983. And this is, according to him, where things start to get a little crazy. He starts to sell and do more drugs than ever before. So later in life, a couple of years later, he got married and he has 4 children, 3 of them who are still living. He has been free from his addiction since February 2009, so we have to applaud him for that. And his children are all successful and productive. So he's written actually 2 books. His first book was The Life and Death of a Player. And then this book that we're going to talk about more today is The Vicious Cycle. So we are really excited to have him. And so now I think you already see him, but I'll introduce you to Timmy Ray. Yay!
How you doing, everybody? Hope you have a blessed evening.
Yes, it's a blessed evening. And just to kind of stamp this video, we are in the midst of COVID-19.
Yes.
So I know this video prayerfully will be out there maybe 2-3 years from now. Someone will be watching and then they'll go, oh man, I forgot about that. We hope and pray, but who knows? Anyway, so we have been locked in. Timmy is in, where are you located again? One more time.
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri right now, Stacey.
He's in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm in Snellville, Georgia. And Timmy and I actually met probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We met. Back then, I've always been trying to do things around books. So back then, I was trying to promote more independent, self-published authors.
Yeah.
I did an event called Sip and Sign, and it was at a little coffee shop. And I brought in several authors, and Timothy was one of them. I'm going to either say Tim or Timothy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you were one of them. And so then we connected on Facebook, and that's how I think we've just seen, what's been going on. And
we've still been busy.
Yes, we have been busy. And so then I saw that you were doing, you had published another book, and I was like, hey, I do podcasts now.
Yeah.
So we were able to coordinate. So
yeah. I'm glad we did.
All right. So I'm just we're gonna get in this thing, but let's talk a little bit more about you before we start talking about the books. So in The Life and Death of a Player, give me a quick summary of that one.
Well, I kept getting in trouble, and my life was like people. They kept going to prison. See, when you're out there in the streets, I mean, it's no in between. When you're dealing in the drug game, you're either going to get killed, you're going to die, or get addicted, or go to prison. So a lot of my buddies got killed or went to prison, but I didn't go to prison. My prison was addiction. And I was addicted for a lot of years, and God allowed me to raise my kids, and by the grace of God, they never got taken away from me or anything like that. But one day I was standing out in the yard at a treatment center, and I said, I was talking to myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of going through this. And
Mm-hmm.
God spoke to me, just like we're talking right now. He said, if you don't let the street life go, you're going to be right back here again.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. And I had seen guys in that treatment facility that was like 70 years old. They was like 20 years older than me. I'm like, this can't be my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to turn it around. So what God let me know is that I needed to let the street life go. I couldn't continue to sell drugs because, I got clean a few times. And every time I got clean, I went back to hustling and selling drugs and yada, yada, yada. And
Mm-hmm.
God said, okay, if this is what you want, I'm going to turn it all back over to you. And I finally realized that I couldn't do it no more. If I wanted to be clean, I had to let the whole thing go.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So where do you think you were, there's so many young men out here and young ladies. They're in single parent homes, and you hear these stories over and over when you're watching television. It's like, well, it was just my mom and I was trying to help out my mom. And then, we see their movies. Everybody's story that we see is typically painted the same, that this was somebody from a broken home living near or beneath, poverty levels. So here you are coming from a two-parent home. We don't see a lot of stories like that with a mother and father in religion, and you end up in the street gang. How did that happen?
Well, I've seen a lot of stories like that.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people say, well, I came from a single family home, but I know a bunch of mothers that raised children that didn't go out into the streets,
Yeah.
but they had a hand on their children. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? What's most important to you, your children or income? Because God will make a way for you. If you're doing the right thing and everything, and He'll make a way for you. You just got to have faith. I know a lot of people from two family homes. They had everything and they went out in the streets. My thing was the excitement. I saw both sides of it at a young age because I had people in my family that was in the church. I had people in my family that was in the streets. And the streets seemed more exciting to me. So that's what I gravitated towards.
Mm,
But I didn't realize the price that I was going to have to pay for it.
okay. So the second book, what's your message? Is it just is it more of that story, or is it, do we see you coming out in this second book, coming away from it to where you are now, or is it just more the stories
Well,
on when you were in that life?
Stacy, this book are things that I seen when I was in that life, things that I've done, seen, or heard. Um, this book, The Vicious Cycle, is not about me at all. It's a fiction
Mm-hmm.
about a young lady that grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and she graduated from Hughes High School. She is a virgin all the way through high school, and she got a full ride to Spelman.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to Spelman, and then her roommate and her had a sexual encounter, and she met other friends there, and it was just things that transpired through this book. I mean, the book has so many twists and turns. We could sit here and talk for hours, but basically, it's a recovery story.
Okay, that's
She,
what's the ultimate message. Yeah.
yeah, she graduated from college at Spelman, got a
Mm-hmm.
good job at P&G, and then she got hooked on drugs, sex, and all that. And I mean, it's just a whole vicious cycle
Mm-hmm.
of her sexual addiction, drug addiction. I mean, because for me, sex fueled my addiction,
Mm-hmm.
to keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
It did, and so the same thing happened to her, but she had a girlfriend that was trying to turn her out and this and this and this and that. People died in her life, and it almost caused her to lose her life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She got involved with a preacher's son, and he was trying to turn her on to God, and she was trying to turn him on to drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up God won in the end.
Okay. All right, it sounds interesting. I've
It
been
is.
trying to have books read before I do interviews, so I can
Mhm.
hear my perspective. But I was like, don't try to be so perfect that you ruin your ruin the message. So it's cool when you can have the author in and
Yeah,
talk about it because you get to meet you. So now you feel a better connection to the book when you can kind of hear your voice or
yeah,
know where the perspective that is coming from. Now, I got a good question. So you know how those gospel songs, somebody prayed for me, and you
yeah,
hear many testimonies, and the one thing as a parent, when your child gets of age where they can go out and like my daughter, I just have one daughter, but when they get to that age where they're out there in the street and you gotta find peace and hope that the things you've instilled in them comes to their mind. So this is
exactly.
my question to you. When you were there, when you were in the midst of all of that, did you ever hear your parents' voice? Did you ever, I know you say when you were, you heard God's voice at that point, but while you're in the process, do you ever think about all the things that you've, been taught?
Well, the things that I was taught is what allowed me not to go to the depths that I've seen a lot of people go through.
Okay.
At one point in my life, when I was out in the streets, my uncle had a garage, and I used to like to go down there and hang out because I wasn't working; I was just hustling. And everybody knows that I've always had a job. I got W-2 since I was 16. But
Hmm.
at this point in my life, the hustling game was so good. And my mother rolled up on me and she said, Tim, come here. I said, yes, ma'am, because I always gave my mom respect.
Hmm.
She said, if you don't go get you a job today, I'm going to kick your ass to your nosebleed. And I was like, yes, ma'am.
Serious kicking.
Yeah, and before the end of the week, I had a job because I have a great resume. I have never been without a job. Like I say, I raised my kids and yada yada yada. But the streets, I was making so much money, I didn't care about a job. But what I realized today is that a job is what kept me out of prison.
Oh.
My kids, I tell my kids all the time, if it wasn't for them, I'd have probably been, because that's what kept me coming home, my kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wouldn't go out there and try to hustle toe to toe. I had a job, I went to church. You know what I'm saying? I always tried to show my children the right way, even though I wasn't doing the right thing.
Okay. So and that's what that's one question I always wondered, when you're out there, when you're out there in the life like that, and really in anything, hey, something
Yeah.
as, you know, simple as smoking some weed when you're grown, you still hear your parents' voice in your head. But
Mhm.
I just wondered. Now, this is one. So if you cannot tell, I lived a little bit, just a little bit of a sheltered life.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mother, and we lived in the hood. We did. She had too
Hmm.
much pride to ever live in the projects.
Yeah.
So she was a single mom, and income was really low and stuff. So in the neighborhood, from like my ninth grade up to I graduated high school, ninth, 10th grade up to high school, we lived, I don't know how familiar you are. How long were you in Atlanta?
Oh, well, I was there a few times. So I
Okay.
think the longest I've lived there was about 3 years.
So I'm sure, sure you're familiar with, did you ever go to Adamsville, northwest side
Adams.
of Atlanta?
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right.
That
Anyways,
over near Marietta?
it's not far, but it's going toward in that direction if you're going to Marietta on 20.
Okay.
But anyway, so I lived down from this big apartment complex. It wasn't the projects, but it was probably like the step up, Allen Temple.
Yeah.
And to this day, I laugh. Well, now I laugh with my classmates that lived up there because they talk about Allen Temple and all the parties. And I said, did nobody come and get me? I was right down the street.
Yeah.
So anyway, so my life and my um experience with drugs is none, and it's only through TV. So
Yeah.
now, when you say you're getting out of the game, I thought you could never get out. I mean, I know you can, but because you're always attached, or I'm assuming you might have been affiliated with a larger entity. If you
Hmm.
were, how did you get out? Because us people never lived a life. We going by TV. They say you can't get out. So unless you're at the top, like Power.
Well, no, I mean, I've always had respect in the streets and respect with man. I always had a job. You know what I'm saying? I've always done my own thing. What I did, I went and bought what I was gonna do. Wasn't nobody fronting me, nothing
Okay.
like that. I wasn't working for nobody. I was working for myself.
Okay.
You know, and when I didn't want to buy anything, I didn't buy anything. You know,
So
and
I
then
guess.
a lot of my friends, I had some close friends that were in it, and when they seen me getting messed up, they're like, "No, man, you go get yourself taken care of." Because back in the late '80s, I was a mess.
Mm,
I was. I mean, and that was kind of the height of the drugs when crack started hitting the streets and stuff like that. I
mm,
was making it myself. I've been making it. I was making it myself since '82. You
mm,
know, so a lot of my friends see me going the wrong way, and they're like, "No, man, go get yourself together." You know, and that's what I did. And
mm,
then I kept coming back selling weed, kept coming back doing this, kept chasing women, and yada yada yada. And God was trying to bring me another way.
mm, mm,
So when God is trying to bring you another way, He'll allow you to go through what you got to go through, and
mm,
He'll protect you through it. But you
mm.
still gonna feel it, and sooner or later you'll wake up.
Yeah. So do you hope that that's a message that will get to people, that people will be able to read your book and share it with their children and their young men so they can understand?
Yeah. Well, some of the stuff in the book they won't be able to share with their children, but
Well, as they become
the
teenagers.
message. Yeah. I'm hoping that's what happens. I'm hoping that. But you know what the problem is? People say, no, that's not going to happen to me. But I'm trying to tell you, the life in the streets, it happens the same way to everybody in
Mm-hmm.
different degrees. You might not go through the same thing, but pain is pain. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be some stuff out there that causes you some pain. You might lose your life or go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing to do is learn from somebody else that's been through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, so I always say that everybody's journey is different.
It is.
Everybody I think has a journey, and
They
maybe
do.
some of our journeys, maybe we don't, but I always, and when I'm talking to youth and other people mentoring or whatever, I always say it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and
That's right.
everybody has a journey. So looking back over your life, do you think this was what you had to go through to become the person that you are today?
I do believe that. I do believe that our paths are destined from the womb, and the word says that God won't put no more in you than you can bear.
Mm-hmm.
And He made us so He knows what we can handle. And He
Mm-hmm.
had a purpose for us. A lot of people that's in church couldn't go where I went and help people. And I have helped people in the dope house.
Mm-hmm.
You say, how can you help people in the dope house, and you were hooked on drugs? I don't know. But all I know is when I came out of the dope house and after I got out of treatment and went back to my church, I seen people that was in the dope house with me in church. So that's all I know.
Well, what is it? I'm just a nobody. You know,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
my mother
The
and I.
Williams brothers.
Yeah, I think back when I was growing, churches are different than what it was when we were
It
growing.
is.
And I remember my mother used to say it, and I think I remember a sermon, and I don't know who preached it, but they were like, "You don't never know how God is going to talk to you."
That's
And
right.
I think hearing those songs about the drunk, with the Williams brothers,
Hmm.
and it makes you realize you don't know how God is going to send your message.
That's
So,
right.
and my mother always, because we always wrote Marta, and she would see drunk men, and they'd be saying something to her, and she'd just speak and keep moving. And she taught me, just say, hey, because most
That's
of
it.
the time, if you were to stop and really try to talk to them, they'd run. They just
Yeah,
say something. And you just never know how God is going to talk to you. So you
that's
can't,
right.
you can't just, it doesn't hurt to listen, because that's happened to me too. Somebody will say, especially when I was in college and stuff and younger, and would be riding the train or walking downtown, and they see your books. It's like, keep going, you're gonna be somebody one day.
Hmm.
So you just don't know where your
You
message
don't.
come from. And so that goes back to that journey thing. You don't
Hmm.
know how God is gonna use you. It
That's
could
right.
be somebody in that dope house that needed to get the message, and you having some kind of spiritual background, maybe
Exactly.
to come and send it through you. You don't know, and then that person needed to hear it so they could go on. We just don't know how life is supposed to go or how it's going to flow, so we just have to really stay open.
Stacy, let me share this with you. There's a house I used to go to get high in Springfield, Ohio. And the guy that was on the house was XD. And he used to tell me, he said, Tim, when you come in here, the aura changes. And he asked me, why would I always quote scripture? And I didn't know, but they would ask me something and a scripture would come out of my mouth and I couldn't understand why. But I'm like, but that's the house that I used to go to. And when I went back to that church in Springfield, people that were in the dope house with me was in church.
And did they
And
remember?
I went and got clean. Yeah, they remembered me.
Uh-huh. And so they were
Yep.
clean
And
too.
that's not the first time that's happened. That's happened a couple times in my life.
And so you
No,
just,
so my
again,
steps have been ordered, and God allowed me to go through what I had to go through for him to reach the people that he wanted to reach.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can't discount another person's journey because that journey is theirs. It's not yours.
Yep.
And that God has designed that for them to reach the people that he wanted to reach. Because you can't reach the same people that I reach.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You can't.
Nope. And I think we're gonna learn that some with this COVID situation, because
Yes.
churches you can't go into a church right now. And so
No, you can't.
everybody's doing everything online, and it's like, I thought y'all said we had to be in the house when we wanted to stay home and watch.
Exactly.
You guilted us, making us think we were wrong. No, I'm
Yep.
teasing. But I think it starts in here with you and your relationship that you
It
build,
does.
and getting an understanding what it is and being okay with it.
Yep.
I've had to learn, you don't have to explain anything to anybody. Do what you want
You
to do.
don't.
Just do.
It's about your relationship with God,
Yeah.
nobody else's.
And then just everything in life in general. I think we pretty much in the same generation, but
Mm-hmm.
we were that last generation that was structured, and, well, you shouldn't do this, and you got to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and da 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 da. And I think as we got older, we started understanding the hype behind it, and that things weren't
Mm-hmm.
always what it was. Then
That's
we
right.
have these millennials. I'm sorry.
You got people in church telling us what we should do, and
And
they doing all the wrong things.
okay, and all of that stuff started to come out, and I think that's kind of the reason why these last two generations, the millennials, and I think in the Z's, that's why they're like, ugh, because it's us, it's our fault, because
Mm-hmm.
we didn't keep up all of that,
That's right.
not, I won't say craziness that we that we were taught. So I mean, it's pretty good. So tell us,
But
where can we find, give us your social media handle, and I'll place it at the bottom in the comments on YouTube, and I'll have it on the audio page in the audio podcast. So tell us where we can find you.
well, on Facebook is Timothy Sawyer. It's real easy on
Mhm.
Facebook. And then on Instagram is Trey XXLRG at hotmail.com. And that's my two sites right now. And I'm
Wait,
developing a website. Huh?
You say that again, because you said at hotmail.com and you were talking about your Instagram.
That's Timothy Sawyer Timothy Sawyer at on Facebook.
Uh-huh. And
And TRAYXXLRG on Instagram.
okay, because you said at Hotmail.
Yeah,
Never mind.
I'm
I'm gonna
sorry.
cut it out. I'm gonna
My
cut
bad. My bad.
No, you're all right. I'll edit through it. I'll edit through.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right. And so then you're on Facebook and Instagram, no Twitter.
No,
Okay. And no website. Do you have a website?
not yet.
All right. Where can we get your
I'm
book? Where is your book on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. It's at http forward slash bookstore at bookstore.durantspublishing.com
Mm-hmm.
/ the vicious cycle /
Okay. So do you have any well, I guess you don't have any tour dates right now because can't tour.
No, well, actually, I'm getting ready to leave tomorrow, and I'm headed to Cincinnati, and I'm going to Dayton, and I'm going. Actually, I'll be in Atlanta on Sunday.
Okay, you are coming.
Yeah, I am coming to Atlanta.
Okay, well, I would otherwise say, I would try to see you, but no.
Y'all so scared. Oh Lord.
But you know what? I'm really not that scared.
Yeah.
I go to the store and I do put on my mask, but it was a couple of times I had to put some masks in my car.
Yeah.
Because I run out the house and then I'm at the store going, I don't have a mask. So I got it in my car just in case I forget.
Yeah, I better quit listening to all this media hype.
And I think I think if you can keep your immune system up,
That's right. And so I do.
And prayer, Lord, just continuous prayer. And
I pray and keep my immune system up.
Yeah, I went walking this morning in my neighborhood. I didn't put anything on because I'm like, y'all not gonna make me be afraid of God's fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
By myself, open air on the street. So I'm not gonna be afraid. It felt good too.
That's good, Stacey.
So, well, anyway, Tim, it was great to have you. A great conversation. I have one more question before I close.
Okay.
So now, did you go through a publishing company or are you self-published?
I did. I went through Durant's Publishing.
Okay. All right. Because one question that I like to ask my authors, because I know there are a lot of us who are self-published, and I just to share your experience for people who may be considering it. And then what's my last question? What's the last question? Oh my goodness, it went away. I asked you about the self-publishing. Oh, who's your favorite author? Who do you read?
Terry McMillan.
Okay, she has a new one out. I'm reading that one now.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I have to get it. What's the name of it?
You would ask me that. Oh.
That's okay.
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you. Just go ahead. Who's your favorite?
There's a few of them. The Bible is my best book. I read that, and every time I read it, I get something else out of it.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, for me to sit down and read a book is a feat. Because I can't make myself sit still long enough. I'm always doing something.
Okay.
But I have read, most of my stuff is like articles, Sports Illustrated, yada, yada, stuff like that, magazine articles and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Terry McMillan was one of my favorites.
Okay. So her new book is It's Not All Down Here. It's not all downhill from here.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. She's talking, well, I'll talk about her book.
Okay.
but yeah, so that's another one. Nathan McCall wrote Makes Me Want to Holler. I would suggest you read that one. I read it years ago, And you know what? To be honest, I don't even know if I finished it because it was some stuff in there that was like, really? And I was young, you know, he did some stuff and it was like, ugh, you know, but I was younger. I've really matured and
Exactly.
was
You got to
saved.
be able to handle a lot of stuff that you read.
Yeah. And I was not back then. I was like, what? I can't believe. And then I think also for me back then, reading the book, knowing the outcome, because I already knew, you know, he had overcome all of it. So I
Hmm.
probably read up to the part where he was probably getting ready to start converting. And I'm like, okay, I know he came out good. So,
Yeah.
but it is a good book. I was just uh talking about
Nathan McCall.
Nathan McCall, Make
Okay.
You Wanna Holler.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was probably the first book that I had read of anyone that had lived a street life.
Hmm.
And came, you know, that was so it was a lot of that. You know,
Exactly.
I was young, not a lot of exposure. So, you know, I don't want to say I was ever in a box, but I had my exposure was very limited at that
Yeah,
time.
probably a lot like my first book.
I'm a big girl now, so no, so I can read it now. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I just want to say thank you again
You're
for
welcome,
joining
Stacy.
us.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. And again, I'm gonna you can look down at the bottom on YouTube and see all of the information on Tim and where you can find his book and connect with
Okay.
him on Facebook. And then the same information will also be in the podcast. So thank you all again for joining us. And until next time, always say, please continue to read to feed your mind. Bye.